Good morning. What is up, Profitable Stylist? Here we go this week. We are talking about sounding smart and the importance of continuing education to remain sounding smart.
Yeah, right. And just so you guys know, I'm going to be eating my last pretzel.
That's your last one
My
of the
last
morning.
one on my little tray here, and I'm going to save it for a little while later. We got a little bit, we have a little bigger crowd. Well, more chance I'll get a complaint. What are we talking about today, Eddie? Your education on the Profitable Stylist platform.
So we're going to talk about my education, and we're going to talk about
what all have you taught on the platform.
On the platform itself, I've got a color class, a highlighting class, like a color class about gray coverage, a highlighting class about foiling, and the classic bob. I just love the classic bob. It's my favorite haircut.
You know what? The diagonal forward, there's a lot of names for it, but the bob that's a little longer in the front and graduated a little in the back, that's my favorite haircut of all time.
Yeah, we used to call that the A-line bob. That one and the zero elevation. It's like
I taught it Tuesday in a little training in the salon. I taught it Tuesday, and I said, "What do you guys call this?" And I was surprised. My staff didn't have all the fancy words, but A-line was one that didn't come up. Right? I said it. I said diagonal forward, longer in the front, graduated. Oh God, I forgot. There was like 10 different names for that haircut. You remember more of them?
You know, the classic, was it the page at one point, or was that something else it was called?
Well, page boy, all versions of the bob, I think, have been called a page or page.
Okay. Boy. Yeah, there's just so many of it. I still get made fun of at the salon because, you know, generally speaking, like when we take a section of hair, we cut underneath our fingers.
Yeah.
I was never able to get it combed down properly enough to hold it straight at perfect zero. So I cut on top of my fingers, and I'm able to cut the cleanest, straightest line doing it over instead of inside of my fingers. And everybody always freaks out at the salon all the time. They're like, how are you holding it?
A little tip or trick for cutting a bob I'm going to talk about right now. And I was accidentally doing it, working for a boss who said one time, he says, and I think it's going to have a little bit to do with your finger situation. But he says, Bernard, I've been cutting for a very long time. And I always have to come back and fine tune my bobs after. And I see you cut it and it comes out perfect the first time you go. Because, you know, you cut and sometimes you don't really know till you blow dry and style. And then you're like, oh, okay, I got to miss this here or miss that there. And right in the middle in the back near the skin, there would be little pieces sticking out. And so he couldn't figure out. He said, but no, what are you doing different than me? Because your bobs look perfect. And not all of my haircuts look so perfect, but this is one of the ones that I had on him as a newer stylist. I was just accidentally doing something differently than he did. And it was purely combing the hair against the skin and literally just scraping the skin with my scissors as I cut that very bottom section. Now I might put my fingers to cut the rest of the sections, but what was happening is near the scalp, that hair closest to the hairline was slightly graduated by being on his fingers. It was coming out and over his finger a little. So when he cut it and it looked squared off, when you let it go and it went closer to the head, it went a little longer and a little bit of fray. And so I felt so smart, even though it was accidental. I felt so smart that he asked me how to do that. You know, and it was a few months later where he asked me only one other thing that he ever asked me. So I'm gonna give one more free advice. Was Friends was real popular then, and Jennifer Aniston was just doing that, like framing the face thing, and they don't teach that in school. So that's one good thing about, like, a good plug for our education today. You can't learn it all in school because we are not done learning even now. We're always learning more and more. I still enjoy teaching at a school and hiring students from school because they get here and they're scouring the internet and new stuff, and they're coming in like, what about? And I'm like, I don't think so. But some of those things, most of the time, I'm like, I don't think so. Been there, done that. Don't do it. But every once in a while, it's like, wait a minute. How have I not thought of that in 30-something years of doing hair? And so framing the face was something he and I kind of figured out together. We're like, how do we get this face framing thing? Because you start doing it and you end up with a little too much cut out the side.
Right.
And mine was coming from blending extensions in the front. I kept trying to blend with less and less and less hairs. And I started to learn how I could blend from like the cheekbone all the way down to the, I don't know, way down here with 10 or 15 hairs, 20, 30 hairs at the most. And it was hard to get that sharp angle without cutting too much hair out. So we kind of learned little bitty cuts, a little sliding, slithering, maybe a little razoring. So together we started to figure out also how to get that to kind of fall forward, because everything that was taught in school was with a round brush curled under or up.
Right.
Nothing ever curled forward. Until this day, I have that in my styling training for my own staff. I put just a regular flat brush in the hair here, and as you comb it, put it under the hair and start blow drying it, and just turn the brush where it literally turns forward, and nobody can do it. Nobody can do it. They literally want to turn it under. Instead of just turning it forward, it'll go under and forward. So then it curls.
You're like, it freezes the brain. You can't get past that certain point,
It's crazy how the brain won't let people do certain things, because in school it's all about under, and maybe depending on the decade you went to school, maybe you learn how to flip up a little bit, or at least
it's like one of those things where they say like pat your head and rub your tummy at the same time.
I can do it. I can do it. And a lot of people, I know a lot of people cannot, right? And so naturally you think your hand should curl hair up or under. And when you go left or right, it just, like the brain says, nope.
Completely turns off.
Don't do it. Can't do it. And I could show it and then cool it. And it's like straightforward, it's like curling forward. And then as soon as I put the tools in somebody's hand, that's not what they see. Because their brain tells their hands to do something completely different than what I did. And I'm like, no, no rolling it under and forward, just forward. So, the things that you learn in school are never going to cover every single thing that you could learn along the way in your complete hair journey. So,
and I'll tell you this way too.
Go ahead.
Because I was teaching a couple of classes this week, and a couple of the stylists that were in this class are, a few of them are new, right, fresh out of school. So we were never taught that in school. We never heard about that in school. How come they didn't cover that in school? I'm like, you know what? Unfortunately, there are some schools that are very thorough and they go through all the information as they do. And then there are some schools that only are focusing on what's trending and popular in the industry right now. And unfortunately, they don't go over anything.
I don't think it's possible for a school to cover everything.
By the time, I guess it just depends on the theory course, because the theory course should at a minimum take you through a little bit of everything.
Well, you say everything. No school, I don't think any schools teach how to do hair replacement, and that you're licensed to do.
That's a specialty service. No, you know what? I take it back. They at least talk about it.
Some, not
wigs and
more and more are talking about extensions these days, but there's so many extension techniques. Which one would you teach? Do you teach a weft? Do you teach a strand? Do you there's so many upcoming and new ones along the way that what do you teach? So I don't blame schools or say that any school should cover everything, because when you say, for example,
you got a generation of hairdressers. Like I have a foiling class. My foiling class sells out every month consistently. It's my number one selling class is my foiling class. It's insane. And I survey people all the time. There is an entire generation of hairdressers who only learned how to do balayage and ombre freehanding. They never learned how to place a foil. They never learned how to wrap a basic foil. How did you pass your practical exam if you never learned
foils? When I went to my practical exam,
it's meant to me that's wild.
The only highlights we did when I was in school was pull through a cap. Foils didn't even exist yet.
Okay.
And so the state board, which is always a couple of decades behind, because how often are we using finger waves? I'm looking at some heads on the table over here, and I'm helping a girl pass her state board right now. And she's got the chem head, this head, the 90-degree head, the finger wave head. And it's beautiful. I can't do it though. mean, I did it to pass school, but I've never done it once ever since I graduated school.
Oh, but you just don't realize.
Finger waves?
Yes. So I tell people all the time, finger waves and perms is okay. So for example, the finger wave example, like you were just saying, the whole bending of the hair forward to when you're blow dry styling, that is directing the hair like a finger wave. It's the foundational concept of a finger wave.
Well,
the
I get
perm,
the foundational
base,
concept.
off base, half base, that's your whole blow drying volume with the round brush.
Well, I get that because one is the roller set head. You go with the rollers already in and you got to comb it out. But they judge how those rollers went in before you comb it out. And yes, right. Although you may get out of school and never roller set or tease some older lady's hair, you're still going to curl and iron or round brush in the same pattern. So yeah, I get that. I get that some things are foundational. I'll disagree with you on the finger waves, though. I mean, finger waves, and it looks beautiful. Man. And I've seen some people wear that, like at some things on TV. You know, it's just I don't do it, didn't do it, didn't ever need it. And so there's a lot of things you don't need to learn to graduate from school or be successful as a stylist. And so a lot of stylists out there can continue to just cut hair, just trim beards. You know, they don't have to do everything or anything. You don't do some of the things I do. I don't do some of the things you do. But let's see your educational platform on the Profitable Stylist. Let's see the one you enjoyed doing the most first. What would that be?
I say the foiling or the gray coverage. It's a toss up.
But it was definitely in the color world.
It was definitely in the color. Look, color to me is such a puzzle. There are so many variables involved. There's not a lot of constants or absolutes. Like in hair, the reason why I love doing hair extensions is because you do this, it's very cause and effect. You do this, this happens. You creatively do this, you creatively have this happen. And then in troubleshooting, if something goes wrong, if this went wrong, it's because this happened.
Yes.
Extensions are very absolute, and I love that. Hair cutting is the same way, styling is the same way, but when you come to color, there is 13 different ways of doing the same exact thing, and not one of them is right or wrong. Right. There's just so many variables involved that
that's why I never liked it. That and updos. I did not like the multiple ways of doing it or getting there. I just show us your favorite one. Yeah, so I liked the things where I knew the answer could be given, even if there was a multiple ways of getting there. Hair extensions, you're right. Hair extensions, flat ironing, cutting. Styling would be next on my list. Not my favorite, because even styling was a little subjective. But man, color and updos is such, and our whole field is creative, but I would say that some things are much more absolute and some are more creative. So which one do you like more? The gray coverage?
Art of foiling. Okay, I'm going to go with the art of foiling because it's art of highlighting because it's fun to me.
What I was going to ask you was to maybe start with gray hair coverage because it looks so boring to me. I mean, I look at that picture and I think, what could be exciting about that? What could you even like about it?
Here's the problem. This is why I love. So gray hair coverage to me is a fun topic to talk about, but highlighting to me is more fun to do.
Obviously.
What happens with gray coverage, a lot of people think it's boring, but gray coverage is what pays the bill. It's what puts food on the table.
That's true.
It's what builds your it really is what grows and builds your business. It's the foundation to everything.
7 videos in gray coverage.
People don't realize that we always say gray hair. Technically speaking, it's unpigmented. There's actually 5 different types of gray hair that we don't realize.
Oh yeah? Tell us about that.
So so just as a preview, for example, you got to think about it. There is your silver foxes that everybody knows, like the George Clooney's or you know, whoever the.
Hey, real quick. Is that the full curriculum? So like 7 videos. And the thing that stands out the most to me is you're thinking that most people don't clarify the hair before.
Yeah, so people don't realize how many types of hair there is, gray hair there is. And then people don't realize how much buildup is on the hair and how much that really blocks your coverage. You know, we let clients process for 30 to 45 minutes for a gray hair coverage.
Right.
But your coverage isn't the entire 30, 45 minutes. It's only a portion of that. It's only a small fraction window of that. And we don't realize how much time is wasted on the processing time trying to break through all the buildup onto the hair. Just like when we go to formulate, we don't realize.
So you're saying the clarification is not a waste of time because it's speeding up the processing.
Everybody thinks, oh, I don't got time to go pre-shampoo somebody before I apply. Then I got to towel dry their hair. It's a waste of time. It's actually the opposite. It's actually an efficiency thing. It'll save you time.
Interesting. So what's the 5 types of gray? Silver fox.
You got silver fox. You've got the
yellow smoker.
Yellow smoker gray.
I don't know if that's a word.
No, I don't know what exactly how it's called, but that's what it is. You've got the 50-50 mix, right? The salt and pepper. You've got the snow white, the pure white, which is different from silver. And then you've got the blend, which is they're just starting to like less than 50%.
I was going to say, and then you got 100,000 different variations of blend.
Then you got the variations of that. But those 5 categories completely change the approach as to how, first of all, what even are your options of colors that you can formulate towards, and then the approach towards that formulation. And that's what I got a whole segment about formulation itself too, because between the formulation and the developers, everybody just thinks 20 volume is the go-to developer, and you can only cover gray with 20 volume, and that's it.
And what do you say?
You could cover gray with 40 volume if you needed to. You could cover gray with no permanent color. You can cover gray. You could get gray coverage with demi-permanent color, depending on the condition that you're working with. So formulation and your developers really matter.
That's interesting. So that class is only $39, huh?
Because
that's good.
It's continuing education. It should give you the foundations, the basics, mixing, application. You know, people don't realize, a lot of people think they have to, like, the hair has to be swimming in product. I seen a stylist mix 2 ounces of color, 2 ounces of developer, and put 4 ounces of color on somebody's head for a root touch-up just to cover gray, because she was so terrified that she wasn't going to put enough color on there. So yeah, $39. There's no excuse. That is a Starbucks breakfast visit.
So I had a girl I'm training. This girl I'm helping train for the practical state board test. She was using cholesterol for her color application, and she was getting a big whopping brush full and slapping it and like patting it into the parting area. And I said, no, what are you doing here? What is this? What is this technique? And she said, well, the instructor told me that when you're doing a root touch up, they do not want to see the scalp. I said, but you're using almost transparent cholesterol to start with. So you got to have it like an inch thick on there to not see the scalp. I don't think that, they don't mean not. I think your instructor is setting you up for failure. Listen, I've seen a lot of people go to state board. You just need to cover the hair right on down to the scalp. They just mean they want some product on the scalp, probably, even though you don't really need it there. I think that's probably what they mean. Oh, well, that's going to be a lot easier.
Well, especially because when you first mix color, majority of hair color is a cream tone. It hasn't oxidized fully yet. So it's not until, 18 minutes later that you really start to see the full color develop onto the scalp.
And that's why some people do miss spots, because it's semi-clear. It's sometimes hard to see where it's going. You have to have good technique. All right, let's see your other course.
So then I'll just go right in line, with the highlighting.
Are all 3 of them the same price?
No, they vary slightly. So you got 39 for gray, you got 49 for highlighting, you got 29 for the bob. And then face framing with hair extensions, it's just a free little quick tip and trick thing because it's fun.
Okay.
And face framing is a huge thing for me, especially because I'm so scissor happy.
And we just
Face
talked about
framing,
that.
it saves my life.
I didn't remember it was one of your classes. That's interesting.
I think we shot this one together.
Yeah.
If I recall, because and then there was the bang ones that we did together too, and that was a fun one.
Let's see the art of highlighting. How many videos?
So
is it?
the art of highlighting,
9.
what it really comes down to is nobody's got a plan for foiling. It's just I got to throw 150 foils onto the head and
True. That's true.
hope I pray that they'll be blonde enough, And then the first couple of times you do somebody's highlights, they look nice and they're happy and they're fun. But then after the third, fourth time of highlighting them, they're like, I think I'm getting too light. I think I need some lowlights. And there's no plan for the lowlights. So you go throw those in, then they start fading out. And then all of a sudden, the person's looking brassy. So many stylists end up with a corrective of their own work. How do you end up with a corrective of your own work? Because you don't got a plan.
When you didn't even think you messed up.
You don't even realize that you're messing up, So I don't care whether you're slicing, whether you're weaving, whatever you're doing. If you're going to highlight somebody, you got to figure out why. You got to place the foils in, or I should say the highlights. I shouldn't just say foils. I teach this class with foils as the driver, but I don't care. You want to use wax, you want to use cotton, you want, whatever you want to use to separate your highlights.
Wax paper, right.
Yeah, foils just is the most universal thing. It conducts heat the most consistently. It'll give you the most even results. So I chose to do this program with foils.
Right. So go with what you were saying. I think you were getting ready to get to something super important. Most people end up with problems months later or half a year later because I love where you're going with this, because I actually made the same mistakes early on in my career. You highlight, but you have no plan, so you don't highlight the exact same hair over and over. So eventually you do get lighter and lighter and lighter, and then the client wants low lights. Maybe you try it and then it fades, and then you've got some orangey brassy, then they're complaining about the brass, and so then they either color the whole head dark, go back light, go to another hairdresser. But I think where you going with this was your plan is so specific, you find the exact same hairs again. Right.
So I have a couple of I have 2 types of technique that I go over in this program. The one technique is what is happening inside of the foil when you're taking those hairs. So this way you have a replicatable, consistent result each and every time.
Yeah, that's smart.
The other thing I go with is the placement strategies. So again, each time they come in, you have a replicatable, consistent pattern over and over and over. Obviously, you can tweak it and you can adjust it. You can always make it lighter. You can make it darker. But after a while, like we have a plan for a haircut. We have a plan for a blow dry style. We have a plan for hair extensions. But when it comes to hair color, especially with highlighting, it becomes the Wild West. Anything goes. So this just constructs everything into an idea and a concept so that this way, each and every time you're grabbing the same, you have the ability to grab the same pieces and keep that contrast alive. It also opens you up the ability to start doing multi-dimensional effects rather than just only 2-dimensional effects. You don't only have to rely on your highlight and your low light. You could potentially incorporate their natural color. You could potentially incorporate 2 or 3 different colors. You could have 2 different variations of the blonde. You can have 2 different variations of contrasting dark. And you can actually mix and match in all those different colors without getting confused where anything went. It's a lot of fun. I get excited talking about it because it's a lot of fun.
I know. I told you I had a headache early on and I wouldn't be able to talk long today. And I looked at the clock just now and I'm like, well, we're close to halfway through what we normally do. I know the time when you enjoy a topic, it's crazy how fast the time flies. I think getting into it, I did take some Tylenol too, so my head's not feeling as bad. But I think that's super valuable, what you're talking about, having a plan. And basically you're doing, at the most simplest form, you're doing a root touch up on the hairs you've done before, instead of always adding new hairs in there to foil.
and then it speeds up your time because you know the pattern. You've got the pattern down by then. You automatically start speeding up your time. I think highlighting is one of the most inconsistent, how you say, scheduling issues that we have.
Yeah, that's true.
Some people block an hour. Some people block 30 minutes. Some people block 3.5 hours. You know, it's all over the place. So it makes scheduling a nightmare, especially if you have a salon coordinator or you have a receptionist or if you are not the person booking yourself and you're working behind a chair in a larger space, and especially there are some salons that are only have departmentalized. They have color specialists, and then somebody's got to finish with a haircut or a style or a blowout after. So you're trying to coordinate between two different people. That timing
That's difficult. So let me mention this. I think that this is in my mind. Maybe it's not in everybody's mind, but I think a lot of hairdressers have maybe people in general in this field get a little nervous about thinking that having the customers think you're doing the same thing over and over on somebody, cookie cutter, or that the color has to be unique for every single client or it's not valuable kind of thing. You know what I'm
understand.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to get this out
better.
Well,
because you think about it this way though, Bernard, nobody's got the same head shape. So even if you did you do a bob on somebody, for example, like I have the haircut, right?
Right.
So you do a bob on three different people. That haircut's going to look three different ways different. It ain't going to look the same. You do 6N, gray hair touch up 6N. You do it on three different people. You're going to have three different versions of 6N, for example.
Well, I think with haircuts, for some reason, we can wrap our mind around a bob is a bob. It's the same. Like I want this bob over and over and over again. But when it comes to color or highlights, I think in our minds, we think it's a little more creative and it should be some unique, creative. I think that's why people go to the place you're talking about where there's no plan. I don't think they need a plan because I think they think it's a canvas, it's artwork. I'm going to paint a different picture every single time. And they don't think of the downside of not having a plan. Does that make more sense?
This is why I go through the weaves in my highlighting class.
The weeds.
Talk about slicing and weaving, okay? And that is the entire difference on how it would look. If you do, not everybody has the same density, not everybody has the same porosity, and not everybody has the same texture. Right. People will have similar, but not all the same. And then not everybody has the same amount of pigmentation. I personally am way darker than you are, for example, right?
Yeah.
Even if we did the same identical placement pattern and the same identical formula, just because your hairstyle is different and my hairstyle is different, our two colors are different. You've got 4 times the amount of hair that any human should have. I have, whatever little 3 hairs I have left on my head, it's going to look different. Yeah. So having that plan, there's a lot of fun to be said in there. I follow what you're saying. Now I got what you're saying, but it is different. We are customizing it to each individual person. Because I agree. Even if let's just say hypothetical, even if you had the like identical twins and they had the same exact everything, right?
Yeah.
Even identical twins still have 2 different personalities. They have a lot of overlap with similarity, but they still are different. One person has their style, the other person has their own style. So they're just going to wear their hair different unless they're purposely trying to trick people out,
right?
And to guess who,
right.
they're going to wear their hair differently. They're going to style their hair differently. So it's always going to look different. It's never going to look identical to anybody else.
And I agree. And what I always said was that's where when I was at a class one time and an instructor, I was asking him, "Oh, you do all this fancy stuff in the salon too?" And he said, "No, that's not where the money's made. First of all, money's made in the cookie cutter work. And it's not, I hate to use the word cookie cutter, but because it's never cookie cutter, but as much cookie cutter as you possibly can get. If anything you streamline, and do over and over, you can schedule better for, you can better charge for, you can better consistently do it. And really the money is made in consistency, being
Absolutely.
the same over and over with small changes for fun or trends or whatever. But you can't be 100% the same like one visit cannot be like the next, no matter what, because the conversation will be different. Each of us are in a different mood on that day. Life is changing. You're coming at a different time of day. Maybe it's sunny outside one day, rainy another. So as much as you try, if you tried to do the exact same thing, things are going to be different. They're going to move a little. They're going to be late, So I'm just saying, try to have a system and do it all the same. It will bring you so much more peace and money and consistency, and the client will be happier. But even with that said, the conversation is going to be different, if nothing else. So it's like having coffee with a friend. It's the same coffee every week, but the conversation is different. And we
That's the beauty of it.
A tiny bit.
I take every single gray hair touch up that comes in through the door. Some of the other stylists, they're like, oh, that again, another gray hair. I'm like, yeah, give me every single grand you got. I will take every single one of them.
First, it's easy money.
It's easy money. They book every 4 weeks.
Right.
You can set your watch to them. They're like an atomic clock. It gives you the consistency in your book. It keeps you busy. It builds your profit margins. With that, it gives you the flexibility and the freedom to have the time and the financial way of getting continuing education and learning new techniques and going to hair shows and doing different things. It brings you back fresh minded, and then it gives you creativity. So now when the person walks in who wants something fun, by your own standards, whether it's a fantasy color or a hair extension, or they need some kind of specialty service, or they're struggling with something and they need a system, or a haircut or anything else, because you have that stability in your life, you are more open-minded and creative to be able to do something fun. If you're chasing clients and chasing money and paying the bills paycheck to paycheck, when that fun, creative opportunity walks in through that door, you are so mind trashed and foggy, you're not going to see the forest through the trees. And you're going to miss what a fun potential opportunity, that just walked in to be creative or to do some new technique or anything else. So continuing education is really, really important. That is only built upon being stable behind the chair, which is built upon the bar, like the cookie cutter, the boring, the consistent, the Monday, however you want to refer to it as. It's what builds the book.
You used the word mundane. I've always said, just because it kind of not rhymes, but I don't know what you call it when you have the same letter in the front of each word. Money is made in the mundane. That's where money's made, is in it. Yeah, money is made in the mundane, and then you can have fun and be creative. Consider the rest of the job, the hobby side of it, just for fun. Going to do this just for fun, just to be creative, just to try something new, change up, because you've got to have percentages in your life. Like you just said, I think 80-90% of the job has to be pretty same over and over and over again, so you can count on it. Why would I be rescheduling your appointment 4 to 6 weeks in the future to do this exact same thing we did today to maintain your haircut, your color, your whatever? But yes, we have the walk-ins that are like, I want to be blue. Okay.
Oh, sure.
But
if you think about it, even if you specialize in fantasy color, for example, you're only going to ever have the amount of clients who want a change every single time they come in.
Right.
Statistically speaking, is only ever going to represent less than 5% of your entire client.
Good point. Because even the blue I just talked about, she probably is going to want to maintain blue, right? So then it's just another boring blue client, because you're just doing roots and the fadage, getting it to not look faded. And
then refresh that blue again, because she wants to be blue for the foreseeable few months until, she wants to change it to something else. after that change, she's going to keep doing that again too.
So that's
right?
a good point. Even the weird, wild, fun stuff turns into mundane if you're doing it right. Because
If you're
or
exactly,
if you're keeping hair on your head, because you're not going to go from blue to blonde to brown to red to green. Although we all have that client, to bald, to a wig, to
hey, but that's how it works.
yeah,
That's how it works. So the only way you grow to that is through consistency. And that consistency has got to keep you motivated. That motivation's got to come from education. We talk about this every week, week after week. We go over this is how you become profitable stylist.
Mhm.
That is the whole purpose of what we do. And it's just been a fun, wild ride to see everybody around us grow. And been now going to a hair shows. I mean, we've been talking about this ever since we started doing these live streams. You start going to a show and people start walking up to you, hey, Bernard, hey, Eddie, what's going on? And it's like we were talking about it before the live stream, even at the show. I sat in on your classes, you sat in on my classes. It's a different perspective sometimes. We've taught a lot of classes together, and then we talk a lot with each other, but then when the few times you have to teach a class separately from each other, it's a completely different approach as well. So it's really wild. It's really, really wild to see it. The next videos that I'm working on a toning video.
Mm-hmm.
I'm working on a keratin bond video. And the other video I'm going to be working on is another type of foil placement strategy video. So I got 3 that I'm currently scripting at the moment.
Oh, good.
I'm going to start recording in the next week or 2. And then, I'll start building out the Profitable Stylist Academy library a little bit more extensively as well. And these are all from user requests. This is all from stylist requests asking for additional education after taking this education. And then coming in, like whoever's local in the Chicagoland area, I do coaching all the time throughout the week. So except for Saturdays, I'll do Sunday through Friday. Thursday and Friday has got to be in the afternoon because obviously we're live streaming, and then I live stream on Friday as well. So, but Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I do personal coaching. Thursday afternoon, Friday afternoon, I do personal coaching. Saturdays, I'm behind the chair all day, so it's too complicated to reschedule clients on Saturday. During the week, I'm willing to reschedule clients at night.
How do people get that education of yours on the Profitable Stylist if they want to?
So sign up to the Profitable Stylist Academy, and then you can always contact us. What's that?
How?
Oh, yeah. Okay, so go to the profitablestylistacademy.com or check out the link in the description below of this video, and there's a shortcut link to the Profitable Stylist Academy. After you take that education, if you want more, if you got questions, if you need to talk something out, contact contact us directly through the Profitable Stylist Academy. Otherwise, go to htbbeauty.com. So hairsthebling.com, right? htbbeauty.com. That's our local distribution website here in the Chicagoland area.
And I answer the comments almost every day, if not every day, every other day. Sometimes I miss a day. And if you really need Eddie's phone number or how to get in touch with him or myself, just ask in the comments, and I can give you the personal phone number if you need it. And then
I do it all the time.
Blow his phone up.
My phone is always blowing up. It's wild. It's really, really wild.
Well, I'm done.
That's all that needs to be said. So look at that. That is
pretty
freaking cool, man. That is from all of you guys subscribing and watching, commenting and interacting with us. And we really, really appreciate it. That is our success right there, through your guys' success, through us helping you and you helping us. So we really, really appreciate it.
So you know how it happened? Look, it happened like that. It's got a mirror on it. So I'm like, that is so cool. And then I saw me and I was like, oh, you're the reason. I think that's why they do the mirror. Whoever's looking at it thinks
That
they
is hilarious.
are the reason. It's
Absolutely
smart. Let's
hilarious.
see what happens if we. Nothing happens.
Goofball. All right, we're out of here.
Play button and nothing happened.
Check us out next week, guys. Same bat time, same bat channel.
Bat channel. Subscribe, comment, ask questions. Press the thumb.